Welcome back to the channel, guys. Your fellow gents and Brit, born in 2000. Very curious mind today. You guys know I'm going to be back again with the diving into the American culture videos, guys. We're going to be checking out 8 American habits that confused me as a Brit, coming from Lost in the Ponds channel. Look, I'm so curious to see what he's going to say in this. Obviously, he's a Brit. I'm a Brit. I'm a young Brit trying to figure out this life. I recently just came back from the US, did a whole 2-month hiatus, ghost session period. You know, I was off the grid. Just immerse myself into the American culture, and there was a lot of things that confused me. I got a video that I talk about it, and I'm gonna have more videos talking about my experience, like, you know, shooting a gun and all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, I'm really curious to see what he's gonna say in this video, guys. Look, of course, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Road to 60K, as you can see in the top corner here. So look, guys, join me on this journey of curiosity, guys, because you're not gonna want to miss the ride. And of course, like the videos if you guys want to see more of this type of content. But guys, look, that being said, let's just get straight into the video. Let's go.
And I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to habits, specifically American habits that confused me when I first moved to the United States. And I'm not talking about things like picking your nose, because I think we all do that. Most of you do that.
I've never done that in my life.
I'm talking about habits that seem to be culturally ingrained in America and not so much in Britain. One such habit is that Americans tend to be more direct. And so in the interest of assimilation, I'm going to do likewise. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, here are 8 American habits that confused me as
Link
a Brit.
to the video will be in the description.
I was already prepared for this one just because, you know, we watch a lot of American films back in Britain. But when my new American relatives and or friends started calling me things like buddy and pal, there was a weird novelty to it. I can't really explain it. It's like how I've said before, you know, how I always thought yellow school buses were simply a trope of American films. To some degree, you start thinking that about everything, and words like buddy and pal fell into that category.
That's a good
Growing up in Britain, where the equivalent word is mate, it took some getting used to. And I also noticed that just like with the word mate, both buddy and pal can be used in an affectionate way and a not so affectionate way. An example would be if an American hasn't seen you in a long time, they might say, "Hey buddy, what's up?" Because, you know, they think I'm a dog. On the other hand, if you took their car seat, they'll look at you with that steely expression on their face and say, "I called shotgun, buddy." And, you know, this happens all the time. It could mean that I'm just an asshole. It's probably that. Now, I can't say that this goes for all immigrants that move to the United States, but one thing that I've experienced a lot is Americans saying, "I love your accent." Did you order that online? It is a common question that I get from people. You know, "Ooh, you sound just like the Geico Gecko. Could I just put you in the corner and have you speak to me all day?" And yes, those are real things that have been said to me, but you know, in some ways it's good because it's
I definitely experienced that when I went to the US. Everybody was people would literally sit in there and watching me speak, you know, and hearing the way I said certain things. Like, what did I say? Like, people kept asking me, how do I say aluminium? That's how I say it. And apparently you guys say like aluminium or something like that. I don't know if you guys know. You guys probably saying it now, you know, as we speak. But yeah, I say aluminium. And what was that one people kept asking me to say? Like, I said, there was another word that I said in there somewhere that people kept asking me to say, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you talk like that, man." And yeah, everybody kept going on about if we take JayFlex to the club and he starts speaking, oh gosh, you know, he's gonna have a good time. But obviously, I've got a girlfriend, so, you know, I don't engage in that kind of stuff. But yeah, I completely agree, and I've experienced that. And it's, you know, it's like I got powers, man. It's like I go to America and I'm exotic. I'm in the UK and I'm normal. So take me back to America, man. It's just, hey, you guys, I love my Americans. Shout out to my Americans watching this.
Me all day. And yes, those are real things that have been said to me, but, you know, in some ways it's good because it's an icebreaker. I'm an introvert. I don't want to just, you know, think of things to say. And so if they want me to say words like water, tomato and banana, it's an easy enough paycheck. They get a good giggle out of it and I never have to see them again. Coffee is a huge thing over here, and of course
yeah, water was the other word that people kept, one of the other words that people kept telling me to say, like, how do you say water? And I was like, water. But if I'm really relaxed, I don't pronounce the T. And that's probably very stereotypical. I just say water. Give me a bottle of water. See, look, I know some of you guys wanted me to say bottle of water. I said it now, okay? Leave me alone, please. I'm joking. Yeah, sometimes we don't pronounce the T. That's actually true.
out of it, and I never have to see them again. Coffee is a huge thing over here, and of course they drink it in cups that are as big as this one right here, because not only do pound for pound Americans drink more coffee than British people, they also drink them, on the whole, in bigger cups. Now, I never used to drink coffee, that is, when I was in Britain. So I didn't previously have a point of comparison between the coffee cups in this country and those in Britain. But you know, a few years ago, the wife and I went to Paris. And then we went to England just recently, and it dawned on me, the cups over there, on the whole, are smaller. The default that they will give you for just a latte are like there, you know, they're small. In some ways, that's good because it sort of promotes responsible caffeine intake. On the other, when I was in Britain, instead of just ordering one small coffee like that, I'd get 3 of them. That's why I was jet lagged the whole time. I've just realised that. And you might say, well, that's not really to do with American habits. That's just what's on offer. But even I, now, as an American citizen, do have the habit of just ordering a grande. And I think the real habit that Americans do more than Europeans is taking this with you on the go, through the park, a little saunter around the shopping.
Hey, we're gonna pretend like we didn't just see him drop it right there. I saw that.
Taking this with you on the go,
just
through the park.
You saw that. One more time for you missed it.
Taking this with you on the go, through the park, a little saunter.
Yeah, bless him, man. Rest in peace to that grande, man. And multi-miss venti is large size because grande in the US is like large UK. Anyways.
Saunter around the shopping mall, taking this with you on the go, through the park, a little saunter around the shopping mall, which is probably where you bought this. And I think that even though Britain is starting to catch up in terms of its coffee culture, there's still quite a wide difference between the coffee drinking habits of the two peoples. And the part of me that really loves my convenience likes to walk down the street with a coffee in my hand. But on the other, I don't like to give in to this societal pressure of always needing to be busy and on the go. So I mostly just drink it in the bath. Americans have this big habit of using the word right in ways that other people don't. And I'm not just talking about politics, I'm talking about the way in which it's used in sentences. First of all, there is this thing Americans do when they want to show agreement with another person, where they say, I know, right? Or they might just abbreviate that question/sentence to just right. And it's sort of infectious. It's the sort of thing that, you know, in my early days in the US, I found myself saying again and again and again, until I remember that I'm a bit of a contrarian, and since everybody else was doing it, I had to stop doing it. But there's another use of the word right that I think I've also been guilty of, where...
He just likes being difficult, doesn't he? He just wants to be that way. He literally, I'm a career, because I just don't want to be a part of the group. Like, man, I'm just gonna do the opposite. Like, I hear it. He's that guy, isn't it? He's one of those.
Saying again and again and again, until I remember that I'm a bit of a contrarian, and since everybody else was doing it, I had to stop doing it. But there's another use of the word right that I think I've also been guilty of, where they'll use it almost like an interjection. So for example, my management team might say something like, Lawrence is the next big thing, right? He's smart, he's talented, he's the 3rd sexiest man alive. And while statistically, a third of that is true, the important part here is that my management team remembered to stick the word right in there so that you wouldn't stop listening. On the other hand, it's hours and not miles. That's right. In Britain, if we talk about the distance from point A to point B, we'll typically say it's a certain amount of miles, as opposed to kilometers. But this is not a conversation about imperial versus metric. No. This is merely me giving the British perspective so that I can contrast it with the fact that a lot of the time, Americans, when they tell me how long it takes to get from, say, Chicago to Indianapolis, it isn't a couple of 100 miles, it's 6 hours. That's because we often stop at the dog park. Maybe this is a result of the fact that Americans drive longer distances, and so they need to know that time, because sometimes you can drive so long in the US that you actually need to stop for the night and, you know, book a motel. The time becomes more important, I suppose, to a potential commute. I still prefer to go by the bigger number, which is the distance, and therefore is more impressive to me, but to each his own. I didn't know.
That's interesting. And you know what, as well, like when I was in the US, a lot of you guys did describe your long journeys and used hours, which is something I did notice as well. Because I would have just said, I would say miles for I would say hours for really, really long distances. But for you guys, like in the US, a lot of my Americans watching, or my Canadians, you know, maybe similar with you guys over there as well. I know some of you guys watch me. Or whatever. Like in bigger countries, I don't know, maybe it's a bigger country thing. You guys are more like 8 hours is like a long drive, whereas in the UK, like 3 hours is a long drive. So unless you're driving anywhere more I feel like for me, from my British perspective, if you're driving somewhere that's over an hour plus, you're probably going to say it's this many hours away. You're not going to say miles. I think you're only going to really use miles if it's like, or maybe this is the younger folk as well. Maybe Lawrence is a bit different with he's an older guy. Maybe they say miles, but I usually say hours all the time. But the way I use hours is for a lot shorter distances compared to the US. You guys use it for a long day. And some of those hour drives, some of you guys will be driving for a day. That's way too long. You can't. You drive a day in the UK. You've gone through the whole of UK and back probably. Like, that's so long.
It becomes more important, I suppose, to a potential commute. I still prefer to go by the bigger number, which is the distance, and therefore is more impressive to me. But to each his own. I didn't know whether to put this one in for a while, and then I thought about it and realised that there's actually many different facets to this particular entry, and that entry is this: Americans will use parking lots as death traps. Now, I have a caveat here. This is by no means all Americans. It's very specific ones. When I worked in the call centre, I used to get a ride from someone who lived in the local area. And one day, it'd been snowing really bad outside.
Why is he posted up like that, man? Lawrence is actually funny. He should do, like, if he did some sort of, I would love to see him do some sort of stand-up comedy, man. But this way he's
from
posted
someone
up.
Who lived in the local area, and one day
he just reminds you of like someone's dad, like someone's funny dad. Like, he would be one of my friend's dad that I would just think, yeah, he's a cool guy. He's cool. Like, you know, he's trying to stay cool with the young kids. You know, he's one of those dads, right? I hear it, man. That's just sorry. This picture's like, he's so serious, like, and it's snowy as well. Like, why do I feel like, I don't know, he's giving like one of those militant guys, you know, that's about to tell me that I need to stay inside. You know, it's past my curfew. Like, what are you doing out here? It's past your curfew. Go back inside. Like, you know, I don't know. What do I know? What am I talking about, guys? I'm sorry.
Centre, I used to get a ride from someone who lived in the local area. And one day, it'd been snowing really bad outside, and she decided, hey, British person with your naive ways, have you ever done a 360-degree skid in a car park? Although she wouldn't have said car park. And I thought she was joking. You know, it'd been a long day of people yelling at us, until she did it just there in the partially empty parking lot, and we span around. I thought I was about to die and or be deported, and she was laughing her head off. At first I thought this was an isolated incident, until some teenagers started drifting, as it's known, in the car park to my local school. You might say, oh, Lawrence, great, you've cherry-picked a part of your memory bank to make it seem as if things like this happen all the time. They don't, but parking lots are a place in which I've seen differences in people's awareness of other cars. In Britain, and this may have changed in the smartphone era, if you're walking into one of the big stores from a car park, you're usually hyper-aware of any cars that may be behind you trying to get out. So you walk at the side right up against any cars here, and you do so at a speed that is slightly above walking pace. In America, those people on foot are not always in such a rush. Like, you could be in your car trying to drive this way, and there's like two people walking really slowly.
Wow, no, I hear that.
It's not been bred into Americans to care. I talked a few weeks ago about the British tendency to want to save the face of other people, to not put them out. This is a generalization. It's not true of everyone, but it does exist nonetheless. It definitely does. Americans don't necessarily have that approach to society, and I think this is perfectly embodied by their approach to exiting a parking lot. Here's a habit that... Here's a habit that I feel like...
No, that's so interesting, though. And you know what? I think I kind of noticed this partially when I was in the US. Like, when we, like, I wasn't driving, I was getting driven. But it's like, when, like, my family friend would drive and there'll be people crossing the road. Like, he went to go pick up, like, his son from high school. And all the kids that were crossing the road whilst he was driving in his big SUV were, like, kind of just, like, too nonchalant from what I'm used to with, like, how, like, in terms of the awareness of cars around. Like, thankfully, you know, people, you know, he's a cautious driver, he pays attention. But, like, I'm thinking, you kids, like, a little bit way too chill crossing roads. And it wasn't even just in there, it was like certain areas where, like, you'd be crossing the road, and even though there's cars that are nearby, like, let's say in the parking lot there's cars that are nearby, you're just taking your time. Like, you're not even trying to, like, move out the way as much as I'm used to in the UK. So I feel like I kind of saw that, not that much. I'm kind of remembering, like, a few times that happened. I don't know if that's, like, think that's generally speaking a thing. But if he seemed like he noticed that, so that's interesting. I feel like I kind of saw that when I was there. You guys let me know in the US if you guys kind of agree with what he's saying there.
Like I've picked up since being here. Americans, if they have access to vacation days, which is not always a given, will take those vacation days, but still occasionally work on those vacation days, even if it's just a light email or two. And I feel like when I was in England recently, I told myself, no work, no work, no way, Jose. I'm just going to go and enjoy the countryside and a plate of fish and chips and come home. I did do some filming, and I had 3 plates of fish and chips to make up for it. But this tendency among some American workers with whom I've worked was quite jarring. I think in Britain, where we are given, I think it's 28 days of paid leave.
We get way more.
We value that time, I think. We value our holidays. We see the importance of rejuvenation, and that importance isn't just toward your physical well-being. It also improves your job performance. And so this American habit of working beyond regular hours is one that's born out of a society where it's almost shameful not to work hard, to put in the hours, to go above and beyond just to get that promotion. I got burned out doing that at the call center, partly because I had to deal with people, but partly because I just didn't have a life. So when I took vacation time at that company or other companies, I really took that vacation time. It's only since I became a bona fide YouTube sensation that I found myself doing occasional work on holiday. I think it's easier when you love your job, but it doesn't mean that rest isn't important, which is why you should stay tuned until the end of this video to watch my take on why British and American sleep time is very different.
And like, again, I was around some people, some of you guys that were working. You guys telling about how you guys barely get any days off, whereas I know in the UK we get a lot more, which is something I didn't realize when I went there. And I was like, wow, you guys are really working like almost damn near 365 days a year. Well, obviously, you got weekends, but you guys are working a lot more. Like, barely any breaks. That's kind of something that surprised me. I didn't know that. So, wow, I kind of feel for you guys. I don't know. Do you guys prefer it that way? You let me know. You guys let me know, because hustle culture in the US is a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's like way more of a thing in the US than I think it is in the UK. But yeah, the working culture, working like that, like with barely any like the holidays you guys get, like that kind of shocked me. Like I would be writing. I don't. Maybe that's just me though. That kind of, that's surprising.
I put this one in because I didn't want this video to feel like it was a complete slam against America and American life. I don't feel particularly negative toward most of these habits, and this is especially true of this one, which is more of an anti-habit. It's about chewing gum. Now, when I think of chewing gum, I think of Americans for some reason. But I noticed something when I was in Britain, and it was this, that the pavements, or as they're known here, sidewalks, were pretty littered, especially in downtown areas, with chewing gum. It occurred to me at that moment that I hadn't really seen a chewing gum laden sidewalk on that level since I lived in Britain. This was a common sight, just walking down a downtown street. In America, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, gum spitters are everywhere. But with the exception of occasional cracks in the sidewalk, they always seem to be a bit more clean than the ones in Britain. And so I've put this in here because I want to ask the question, is that because Americans have a good habit of not spitting out chewing gum as much as British people, or is it because they replace the sidewalk every now and again? So those are just some of the habits that confused me when I first moved to America. Let me know in the comments if you're American and if you habitually do any of these things. As promised, here is me comparing British and American sleep time. You'll watch that next. And until the next...
Shout out to Lawrence, man. That is at the end of the video. What you said about at the end as well about the chewing gum thing, like I agree. Like the streets in the UK are like littered with that kind of stuff. I wasn't doing that much. You know what I think though as well? Maybe part of the reason why you don't get it. Like my guess is I think we just walk. People in the UK walk more. I think in the US, especially with certain cities, like you're driving more. And the cities are more spread out from what I've seen. Could be wrong. This is my guess. You guys let me know what you think. Obviously, it comes below. Like, you guys let me know. But I think because there's less walking, I think it's a thing that you guys just walk less. Naturally. So, I mean, your street's going to just be cleaner. You know? a lot of us Brits walk everywhere and take buses, take different types of transport everywhere, especially in London. And then again, in the US, is like, it's hard to compare as well, because the US is like I go look at it as like a continent. So there's probably some cities where it's like probably like it is in the UK, and others where it's not. You got way more diversity there. But that's my guess. I'd love to know what you guys think about it in the comments below. And again, these habits as well, bar the working one, like I wouldn't have an issue with like the work, but then the working one is just like, wow, I would much prefer to have breaks type thing. But then again, like I'm easygoing, man. Wherever I go, I try to adopt to their culture. So if it's no breaks, I'm adjusting. I'll find a way to adjust. Like I always try and make the most of what I have. But that's me. Speaking of which, guys, look, shout out to you guys that made it to this point in the video. I think it's absolutely falling apart. You guys have listened to the roll. If you made this point, comment down a pink heart, so I know who my real ones are. I love all you guys that watch this to the end. And of course, guys, stay tuned for more videos. Don't forget to subscribe to channel Road to 60K. Join me in this journey of curiosity. And yeah, I love you guys. I've been JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.